Replacing the rear brake pads on a Ford Edge 2011. The lug nut size is 3/4 or 19 millimeter. Okay, once you get to taking your caliper off, it's going to be 13 millimeter. There's a bolt right here. Alright, yeah, you'll notice this thing down here, don't stress out too much. You just need a T30. This is a T30, and take this orange cap off and it'll fit right down in here. Not too much space since it's up against the shock. There we go. Start turning it. And once it becomes a little bit easy, then just take your T30 out. Be careful too, if you keep screwing it out, they get closer against this, there won't be enough room to pull this out. So once you get it out a little bit, then by hand, just unscrew it. They like to do stuff like this to make these brake changings more difficult. So once you have that off, go ahead and get your 13 millimeter. It doesn't fit the snuggest. I think a ½ inch fits a bit better. Yeah, it's a ½ inch. I told you wrong. It's a ½ inch for these. So get that loose. Make sure to hold this in place if that wants to turn. This vehicle's in pretty good shape. Now we're back up to this one. Alright, so we got that one off. Make sure to put these in the right spot. Make sure this one goes down here, just like that. So now we're going to take the caliper off. Just gently take it out. If it's a little difficult, you can use a screwdriver. Now this is what's called a ratcheting piston. So I have a kit here for it. So what we'll do is see which one fits it the best. Alright, so I'm using this size right here. I'll go ahead and get my tool. Then we'll need the plate, and you can rent this from any auto parts store. I bought it because I have been using this quite frequently. So lock it up, and then you'll screw this out counterclockwise and tighten it up against the piston. You'll turn it to the right. And this can be pretty difficult, so if you want to use leverage, for example, you can use a wrench. Slide this through here, like that. A lot of people disagree with this, but it's better than hurting your wrist. See how it's easy to turn with more leverage. This one's actually pretty difficult to do, surprisingly. Seems like it's in good shape, but keep turning it. that tight as well. Might even have to use a wrench up against this. Keep it tight. Flashes on. Alright, so now it's turning smoother. There you go, you can really feel it moving more when you put more pressure on this. Alright, so we got it all the way back in. Make sure not to push it in too much. Just turn this piece clockwise to loosen it. There you go. We got this ready to put back on. So now we'll take the old brake pads off, here and here. And we're also going to replace this rotor because it's been scorched. Make sure to check your brake pads and your rotor. Check your rotors, make sure they're not scorched. This one is. And I will check what torque bit size we need. This is a T40. Looks like that. Torque bit size T40. And this will just hook into a ratchet. I'll hook it in here and turn it. I'm going to cheat and use an impact. Make sure you got it firm in there so you don't strip it. This is why impact is so important, especially when you do this a lot. That would have been a lot of hassle without using that impact. So now we want to take these larger bolts back here off. We don't necessarily have to take the brake pads off. They're not in our way. Check what size these are. And 15s fits it pretty well. We can get away with 15 on it. Alright, got that side loose. Alright, pause it. This one was on there pretty tight, but cut it off. Make sure you use leverage whenever you can. There's not really much I can do with this type of wrench, but if you use a normal wrench like this, you have that, you can put another wrench on here and extend it. A lot of people say that's not the right way to use a tool, but it does help you. Helps you preserve energy and get it done quicker so you don't hurt yourself. Just be careful when you're doing it. Alright, so almost got this one out. I could have used the impact back here, but not everyone has an impact, so I'll use a wrench. Sure. Alright, so I'm going to finish taking these out. This whole bracket piece right here is going to come out. I'm going to take these old brake pads off, and then these clips right here, you can either replace them with new ones or clean the old ones, and then we'll insert our new brake pads and put some fluid on them. Alright, so after you have these two bolts taken out, this piece will come off. Then you'll pull your old rotor off. After this torque bit is out from what we did earlier, and then it just simply pulls off. And clean up in there with some brake cleaner, maybe some sandpaper, get it nice and clean, and then put your new one on. Then put your torque bolt back in. Remember, that's I think a T40. Once that's in, then we'll go in and put our bracket back on. Make sure to clean these right here for your new brake pads. So we'll go ahead and tighten these up. Make sure to check your bolts, make sure they're nice and clean so they go in easily. Dirt on them can make them very difficult to go on. They might not tighten all the way. Got this one tight. Now we'll go down here, tighten this one up. Don't tighten one very hard before you tighten the other one. Now we'll go ahead and tighten them very well, since these hold all the pressure of the brakes. Alright. Now we're going to put the brake pads on. Aaron, did you check to make sure they're all the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, they look identical. Yeah. Alright, so the ones we're using are Duralast Max Premium Ceramic. These are good quality ones. Just fit in here. See how it lines up with that. And we'll do the same on the opposite side. This is the brake side and this goes against the rotor. So we'll go in here, fit in that side, and it should clip in. There we go. We've got these nice and tight in there. Now we'll grab our caliper. And I was resting the caliper back on this metal piece. For future reference with any of them, you want to be very gentle because this hose right here can break or be damaged. Looks like this caliper needs to go out a bit more. Go in a bit more, that is. So we'll go ahead and get this all tightened up. You can see how much easier it is now because of it going in more. When the brake pads get really small like this, I mean, that is completely gone. That's not good. The piston comes out further and it can be damaged by rust. Alright, so remember the long one like this, the thicker side goes in the bottom. We usually want to start with the bottom side. Screw that in. Make sure it's lined up right. So we'll get that started and we'll go up here. Make sure to give some slack down here, don't tighten it really hard. That way when you go up here you can move it around, get it nice and perfect. Alright, so we've got them both in good. Now it's a 1/2 inch. I did say 13 earlier. 1/2 inch fits it perfect. 13 gives a little slack, just a tad bit of slack, but you always want to be careful. And you can see how this was moving over here, so you might want to hold on to it with your finger or use an adjustable wrench. You don't necessarily need to use a specific size. And these do not need to be extremely tight. These are slider. Also make sure to lubricate. These come out. You'll want to do that. I did that off video. I'm putting about 20 pounds. That's not the exact amount it needs, but it's plenty for its job. 20, 25, maybe 30. And at all times, if you can, use the enclosed because it keeps the nut from being damaged. Alright, so double check this one up here. And that's nice and firm. Now we'll get this piece, screw that back on. Make sure this bolt is nice and clean so it goes on quickly. This is practically just a pieces scare you away from changing your brakes. They like to do that, so it'll make more money at the shop than you doing it yourself. So once we get that in pretty good, we'll go ahead and take the rubber piece off. Remember, it's a T30. We'll snug it up a bit so it doesn't come off on the road. There you go. So now we got our brakes on. Now is a full rotor and brake pad change, and this is the same identical thing on the opposite side. So just take your time. It's very simple, save you a lot of money.